Donald Trump is ready to inflict pain on Vladimir Putin to force him to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine. Trump's team will hit Russia with everything they have. Also, they will present the end of the war plan in the Munich Security Conference. So, how exactly is Trump's team ready to put pressure on Putin, and how can the US force Russia to make the deal? US President Donald Trump is ready to double down sanctions to force Russia to stop the war against Ukraine, said his special representative for Ukraine in Russia, KeithKellogg, in an interview with the American newspaper The New York Post. According to Kellogg, currently the sanctions against Russia in terms of the degree of painfulness of the economic pressure are at about 3 points on a 10-point scale. He noted that the US sanctions themselves, for example those aimed at Russia's energy sector, are formally twice as high, but there is still room for their strengthening. Quote, "It is indeed possible to strengthen sanctions, especially the latest sanctions. It opens up a wide range of opportunities to do something. And if anyone understands leverage, it is President Trump, and you can see that in what he has done recently." Also, General Kellogg revealed details of the secret meeting inside the White House, during which Trump's team discussed ways how they can inflict more pain on Vladimir Putin to force him to back down on Ukraine. US President Trump gathered in the Oval Office the entire team of advisors and cabinet members who deal with national security issues, from Vice President J.D. Vance to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and they have discussed how to use all elements of national power to end the war. Meeting has been attended by President, Vice President, National Security Advisor, and also Secretaries of State and Treasury. Kellogg added that Ukraine would need to maintain military pressure on Russia until talks could begin, and criticized former President Biden's strategy on pledging to provide Ukraine as much aid as needed without increasing pressure on other elements of the national government. It seems like the tide is turning against Vladimir Putin right now, as Trump is ready to be tough on the Kremlin. Meanwhile, Russia is not interested in preventing massive losses on its troops, which is why it is important to stop violence before discussing peaceful settlement, General KeithKellogg said. Kellogg emphasized this is why the pressure cannot be just military. Trump have to apply economic pressure, diplomatic pressure, some kind of military pressure, and other levels. At the same time, he reiterated that the war will not end without negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. Also, Kellogg said that the issue of resolving the Russian-Ukrainian war must be approached pragmatically, and this means that both sides must take and make concessions. Meanwhile, US allies expect Trump administration to present a long-awaited plan to end the war against Russia in Ukraine at the Munich Security Conference next week, according to Bloomberg. The end of the war plan is supposedly to be presented by Trump's special envoy KeithKellogg, who will participate in the Munich Security Conference. Bloomberg sources declined to say how detailed they think the discussions could be. As we know, among the expected elements of KeithKellogg's plan are a potential freeze on the conflict and uncertain status of the occupied territories by Russia. Kyiv has previously said that only membership, most reliable security guarantee, would be NATO membership, but the Trump administration has not shown support for such measure. Earlier on Wednesday, Kellogg confirmed that he plans to participate in the Munich Security Conference and meet with America's allies who are ready to work with us. However, KeithKellogg did not reveal how exactly they plan to end the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, President Zelensky will lead Ukrainian delegation in the Munich Security Conference next week, which US Vice President J.D. Vance and Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia KeithKellogg are also expected to attend. The Ukrainian delegation will present position on ending the war and their views on how a long and lasting peace could be achieved. It's necessary that the leaders and the experts in the politics who will be in Munich realize that this is momentum for Ukraine. Ukraine is confident that it's very near to really ending this war by just and lasting peace, and Ukrainians plan to provide Kellogg with full and real information about the situation on the battlefield, ongoing mobilization, and the status of weapons and equipment delivery. Donald Trump also indicated that he wants to reach an agreement with Ukraine to gain access to the country's rare earth materials as a condition for U.S. support for Ukraine. Trump also suggested that he has received word from Ukrainian government that it would be willing to make a deal to give the U.S. access to the elements critical to the modern high-tech economy. At the same time, U.S. President Trump advisors and members of his administration are divided on how strong the pressure should be on Russia and how to achieve peace in Ukraine, according to NBC News. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Special Representative KeithKellogg want to use American leverage to force Putin to back down, but others advocate reducing the aid that the U.S. provided to Ukraine during Joe Biden administration to force an early end to the conflict. Critics of this approach say that this would effectively disarm Ukraine and also force Ukraine to capitulate. Before the becoming vice president, also J.D. Vance was a skeptic of the money that Biden administration provided to Ukraine. Kellogg said in an NBC interview that Trump's national security team is working in sync. The president will use all levels of American power if necessary to end the bloody war, he said, and Vance's press secretary declined to comment on this matter, and Trump himself has warned that will hit Russia with tariffs, sanctions, and taxes on Russian goods sold to the United States and other countries if Putin does not settle. According to NBC, the problem with this approach is that U.S. trade with Russia has fallen sharply, making tariffs a less effective tool. For comparison, in 2021, before Russia's invasion, this figure was almost $300 billion. However, after Trump took office, some of those who has doubled, so this team was at least not selling out Ukraine. Trump also has begun to realize how difficult this issue is to resolve and that Russia will not be constructive unless we apply more pressure. A U.S. official who works on Ukraine and Russia said in an interview, he added that one reason for Trump change his rhetoric is a transition from campaigning to governing. The obstacle to peace is not Ukraine, and Donald Trump is starting to get this message. Meanwhile, the United States will not chair the Ramstein format meeting for the first time. The United Kingdom has officially confirmed that it will convene the meeting, which will take place in the NATO headquarters. This is stated in the official statement from the UK mission to NATO. According to the statement, UK Defense Secretary John Hill will convene the next Ukraine Defense Contact Group. It will take place at NATO headquarters on Wednesday, February 12th in the afternoon. The group will meet on the eve of a meeting of NATO defense ministers to discuss priorities and support for Ukraine. As we know, Ramstein format, led by the United States, was established in the spring of 2022 after the start of Russia's full-scale invasion. It brought together more than 50 countries. On the eve of Donald Trump's return to the White House, concerns arose that the new administration would abandon Ukraine and not support the work of the Ramstein format in the same way as President Biden did. There were even fears that the format in its previous form would never exist. However, the UK has proved its leadership around the globe again by taking the lead over Ramstein format. Even several months ago, there were concerns that Ramstein format could be over. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, stay with us on YouTube, and glory to Ukraine.